Hello and welcome back to Chengi's World. Today is Women Ask Wednesday, and so I am here to answer the questions that I receive from you, my beautiful angels. Okay, so today we're going back to the questions that the girls have asked. Boys, feel free to ask me questions as well. I know that I'm a coach for women, but I do love to hear from you, even though sometimes you get me into trouble. Yes, we shan't say anymore. Well, for those of you who are new to my channel, welcome to Chengi's World. I am Chengi and you are my world, my precious one. For those of you who are coming back again, thank you so much for your loyalty, for liking, for commenting, for sharing, and making Chengi's World really a precious place for us all to meet and talk about the good stuff. So today's question is a question that was a video request, to be honest, that was made on my YouTube channel, video 159. For those of you who follow my channel know that I've numbered my videos, so it's 159, and it is called Helping Your Man versus Proving Yourself Worthy. And in that video I was talking about the difference between women operate, the place from which we operate when we are trying to help a man, and often we do it from the place of trying to prove that you're wife material, that you're really good girlfriend. So you end up giving more than you should, you end up giving the wrong stuff, and you end up in a situation where you end up at the back end of the spectrum. So that's what that video was about. But I saw a really beautiful comment and I thought it would be really good for me to do this video because it really touches on some stuff that as women we really need to understand and comprehend. So this young lady writes, you spoke a lot about helping a man financially. I'd like to hear more about helping, supporting a man emotionally and mentally, and setting boundaries towards that as a woman. That's such a beautiful question. And yes, one of the things that we've discussed on this channel is the fact that men are not emotionally wired the way women are. We've discussed that men are not as emotionally sophisticated. They don't necessarily have the same IQ emotionally that we do, because their brains are compartmentalized. Emotions are a compartment, whereas for us, as a woman's brain is not compartmentalized. It's like spaghetti. It's, everything means everything and everything is connected to everything, and so we have a higher level of emotional intelligence. Furthermore, the way we deal with emotional trauma or difficulty is through talking. We find peace and our hormones and our levels of happiness go up when we talk through our situation and through our problems with our girlfriends, with our moms, with our sisters. When we talk through a situation, we feel so much better about that situation. So it's so much easier for a man to support us if he's a good listener and is prepared to hear us yap on without without giving us the solution straight away, like men tend to do. We are easier to support, but for men, digging and delving into their emotional problems or trying to really reflect upon it in the way that we do can actually be a bit of a hindrance, a bit of a burden. And so when we as women approach men in an attempt to support them emotionally by dealing with them as though they were our girlfriends, we actually end up alienating them more and causing them to pull back more, because that's just not how men deal with their emotional situations or traumas. They prefer to pull back and work and get the work done. And as they work, it builds up their hormones, it makes them feel better, and they can come back having thought through and processed certain things. So supporting a man emotionally through hard times, for instance, really is about allowing him to work through his situation and just letting him know that if talking is an option, you are available for that. If it is not, then all you have to do is in that moment create an environment where there is no strife and no stress. One of the things that is very hard is putting aside your present need, not your general needs, but your present need in that moment in order to facilitate somebody else's. It doesn't matter how particularly annoying or difficult it is to deal with a situation with your man at that time. What matters is if you want to support him emotionally, sometimes we have to minimize the constant demands that we have emotionally, financially, or even mentally on a man when we know that he is going through a hard time. But in general, supporting your man emotionally and mentally is really is the same thing as every other human being. You cannot support somebody who you do not understand. You cannot support somebody whose vision you do not understand. You cannot support me unless you understand me. You cannot support me unless you believe in what I believe in. You cannot support me unless you have an interest in what it is that I'm trying to create here. And so it is important for a woman, and vice versa for a man. But as we're talking to women about men, at the moment we're just going to talk about a woman. It is important for a woman to understand what her man needs. One of the things I will give you a general overview is, when I had my son, I became very cognizant and aware of a man's world. Until I had my son, my world is very feminine. I understood men intuitively from a romantic perspective, but I really didn't understand the world that a man has to navigate through. And believe it or not, ladies, the world, we're all walking on planet Earth. We're all experiencing the air, the sun, the moon, and the elements that make up the earth, and we're all interacting with the world. But trust me, a woman will never understand what it is to be a man stepping out into the world, just as a man will never understand what it is to be a woman stepping out into the world. But what really helps as we want to support and unite as a human race and build bonds of love between men and women is to really begin to lay down your sword, your fight, your needs for a season and for a second, just so you can understand somebody else's world. And the world of a man is really hard, is really tough. A man already grows up and is conditioned to be the provider, to make things happen, to lead. And we're talking about masculine men here. We're talking about masculine men who are coached and trained to go out into the world and make it work. These men are competing all the time with other men for more status, more money, so that they can feed their family, so that they can be a man that can one day feed his family and protect his family and give his family the things that they want and need. And so that pressure to be somebody, to be men are fighting for their reputation, for their name, and so when I see my son when he goes off to school, I am aware that he's gonna, other boys are gonna want to challenge him physically. They're gonna want to challenge his physical strength. They're gonna want to challenge his emotional strength. But as a boy, he has to have the ability to defend himself physically in a way that as women we don't train our children, nor do we need to train girl children per se to be able to defend themselves physically. A girl just has to be able to defend herself mentally from so many other things, and of course this is not to say that we shouldn't train our girls and let them learn how to fight and protect themselves. It's a dangerous world, but the chances of your daughter going to school and having physical fights, and every single day at school having somebody bully and bang him on the wall or try to test their physical strength, is not something that you're likely to experience. Men, every time they step out of the door, somebody is testing them. Somebody is testing their masculinity. Somebody and some of our men are going out here to work, and they're being told, depending on their role in life, they have bosses that are having them do A, B, C, D, and E, and G. They're constantly yes men at work, and they're fighting every day to get that respect and honor and dignity that will never, for some men, or cannot come so easily, out there in the world. They are nobodies. Out there in the world, your man does a job that maybe he even hates, but he does it because he requires it of himself, and society requires of him in order to be able to provide. He is not able to cry like a baby when things go wrong. Often we as women require him to be our strength. I say all of this to say that a man's world is not easy. A man's world is very difficult, because especially if you're in a relationship, much of what he's doing in that relationship is to provide for you and to make you happy and to give you the life that he desires for you to have, that he feels you're worthy to have. Now, you might be a working woman too, and you might have the same story, but trust me, it is a very different pressure that a man carries from that which a mom carries. Even as a single mom, I had to do all of these things, but nevertheless, there is as a single mom, I can go and ask for help financially from people, and no one will kind of think any kind of way about it. But as a man, he can't go around asking for help and being vulnerable if he's a single parent. It's a very different world and very different perceptions. So first and foremost is understanding the world that your man is going out into, understanding the pressures that he is facing, and understanding him. And what it is that he needs is he needs a peaceful place and a peaceful home to rest his head. Men really want a place to rest their heads with their women. They want a place where they can just be and not have to prove themselves, not have to, in this space constantly come back to criticism, or to come back to you're just not meeting my need, you're not making me happy, you're not up to par. And it's very difficult for us ladies, because we are doing our bit already, we are exhausted already, we are pulling our weight already. But until we abandon our entitlement for somebody to serve us and begin to realize that in service we teach others, and we seduce others and coerce and invite others, actually is a better word, to be whole and to be at peace, so that they can give us peace. Now, if somebody's constantly taking from you and they're not reciprocating, then you're probably in a toxic, abusive relationship. But a decent man will see the effort that his woman is making, and home will be the place that he wants to go to every single day, or his girlfriend is the person that he's going to want to pick up the phone and talk to at the end of the day. You will become a place of rest for him, and that is about really understanding his world. So for those of us who are dating, now we say, how would you understand the world? Asking your man the question, if you had a perfect relationship with me, what would it look like? If our relationship was perfect, what would we look like? What would we do? Where are the places we'd go? What would our week look like? What would our time look like? Tell me your vision of the perfect relationship. If you are able to ask that question and he is willing to give you an answer, you are closer to knowing what a perfect relationship for him looks like. Some men, they just want a little bit of silence, and they just want a little bit of peace when they come home, put their feet up and just unwind from the day. Some men don't want to call you straight after work. Some men want to call you straight after work. Some men want you there with them all the time. They want to come home and see you there with them all the time. Men have different needs because they are different individuals, just as women have different needs. But it is your job to find out what that need is, just as it would be for your children, so that you can create that harmony. Now, the boundaries are really about the difference between being taken advantage of, and I believe I've done a video here, the difference between compromise and settling, and the same principles apply. When you have to abandon your core needs, when you have to abandon yourself, when you have to abandon certain core things that make you who you are in order to support your man emotionally, then you're veering into dangerous territory. You are beginning now to either be an enabler, you are actually beginning to create a toxic environment, because you are saying, honey, sweetheart, I want to support you at the cost of my peace of mind, at the cost of my serenity, and at the cost of my core. And that is really where the boundaries lie. If I have to support you by betraying myself, then I cannot therefore support you. And then I have to sit back and think, do I have what it takes to support a man like this? Because if it means abandoning myself in order to serve you, if it means abandoning my core values and core beliefs in order to serve you, then now I am overstepping my boundaries and I'm teaching you to disrespect mine. So it all comes down to self-awareness. What are the core things? You know, for me, a man, I'm a bit of a chatterbox. I like to chit chat. You know, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I like to chit chat with my man. And he was like, look, you know, I would really appreciate it if we just had some light silent moments and then we could talk about it when I've had a bit of a rest. That's not compromising my core values. I don't have a core desire to talk all the time. I enjoy it, I love it, but it's not betraying my core values. But perhaps in order for a particular man to feel that he is being understood, I have to, you know, never tell him when he does something wrong. I have to keep my mouth shut and not tell him when he's done something wrong, because it's just going to upset him or destroy his equilibrium. Ever, I'm talking about ever. He just never wants to take any feedback. Then that guy is toxic and narcissistic, and that is not a healthy relationship to be in, because any wholesome man wants to know what is going on with his woman. So I'm talking about the difference between core needs. Chit-chatting, criticizing, that's not necessary, but definitely being in a healthy relationship where you can share the things that you're not happy with. Do you see what I mean? There is a difference there. I am not abandoning myself in order to serve the other person. So I hope this video helps, and I hope it answered your question. Take care of you. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, and let's get this party started. Women Ask Wednesday, baby. I'll see you.